صل على محمد وآل محمد. بسم الله والحمد لله وصلى الله على رسول الله وعلى آله وصحبه وسلم. Brothers and sisters, Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. Before we start with the announcements and with the program, I would like to invite Brother Qasim to the podium for some Quran recitation with a loud salawat.
صل على محمد وآل محمد. أعوذ بالله من الشيطان الرجيم. بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم. هل أتى على الإنسان حين من الدهر لم يكن شيئا مذكورا إنا خلقنا الإنسان من نطفة أمشاج نبتليه فجعلناه سميعا بصيرا إنا هديناه السبيل إما شاكرا وإما كفورا إنا أعتدنا للكافرين سلاسل وأغلالا وسعيرا إن الأبرار يشربون من كأس كان مزاجها كافورا عينا يشرب بها عباد الله يفجرونها تفجيرا يوفون بالنذر ويخافون يوما كان شره مستطيرا ويطعمون الطعام على حبه مسكينا ويتيما وأسيرا إنما نطعمكم لوجه الله لا نريد منكم جزاء ولا شكورا إنا نخاف من ربنا يوما عبوسا قمطريرا فوقاهم الله شر ذلك اليوم ولقاهم نضرة وسرورا وجزاهم بما صبروا جنة وحريرا متكئين فيها على الأرائك لا يرون فيها شمسا ولا زمهريرا ودانية عليهم ظلالها وذللت قطوفها تذليلا ويطاف عليهم بآنية من فضة وأكواب كانت قوارير من فضة قدروها تقديرا ويسقون فيها كأسا كان مزاجها زنجبيلا عينا فيها تسمى سلسبيلا ويطوف عليهم ولدان مخلدون إذا رأيتهم حسبتهم لؤلؤا منثورا وإذا رأيت ثم رأيت نعيما وملكا كبيرا عاليهم ثياب سندس خضر واستبرق وهلوا أساور من فضة وسقاهم ربهم شرابا طهورا إن هذا كان لكم جزاء وكان سعيكم مشكورا إنا نحن نزلنا عليك القرآن تنزيلا فاصبر لحكم ربك ولا تطع منهم آثما أو كفورا واذكر اسم ربك بكرة وأصيلا ومن الليل فاسجد له وسبحه ليلا طويلا إن هؤلاء يحبون العاجلة ويذرون وراءهم يوما ثقيلا نحن خلقناهم وشددنا أسرهم وإذا شئنا بدلنا أمثالهم تبديلا إن هذه تذكرة فمن شاء اتخذ إلى ربه سبيلا وما تشاءون إلا أن يشاء الله إن الله كان عليما حكيما يدخل من يشاء في رحمته والظالمين أعد لهم عذابا عليما صدق الله العلي العظيم صلوات.
Thank you, Brother Qasim, for the beautiful recitation. Before we continue to the program, I have a few small announcements to make, inshallah. So the day of Ashura will be this Tuesday, July 16th, with the Urdu and English program starting at 8:30 a.m., inshallah, and the Arabic program starting at 9 a.m. Please check your email and WhatsApp for further details. And for these events, we will need some volunteers. So if you're interested in volunteering, please reach out to Brother Wasi about this. Shami Ghariban will also be on this Tuesday, July 16th, at 9:30 p.m. with the Urdu and English program taking place in the Al-Mustafa Hall and the Arabic program in the Al-Zahra Hall, inshallah. As for our fundraiser, we've set a goal of $70,000, brothers and sisters. Inshallah, we can donate generously, fi sabilillah. It doesn't matter if it's a big amount that you can donate or a small amount. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala sees your intentions and your niyyah, and He sees that you're spending towards His cause. And nothing's more important than spending towards Allah's cause, inshallah. And of course, these donations get reinvested by funding speakers, events, trips, madrasa, etc. So inshallah, it will benefit our further generations. Then this Thursday, we'll be having a Q&A with the sisters. The sisters will be having a Q&A with Sayyid Jerry after the program, inshallah. That's this Thursday. And please keep our sister Rizwana Dato in your ad'iyah, together with all the sick and needy. May Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala give them all a quick and easy recovery. Bihaqq Muhammad wa ali Muhammad. Last but not least, after the program is done, could you please all stay seated as Brother Abu Mahdi will announce to us the school initiative, inshallah. This is a very interesting and important message of his, so inshallah we can stay seated for that. Can I now please have Brother Ali Shaheen come up for poetry? We're allowed salawat ala Muhammad wa ali Muhammad.
أعوذ بالله من الشيطان الرجيم. بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم. أفلح من صلى على محمد وآل محمد. علي الأكبر يتذكر رسول الله تارة وينادي ربه تارة أخرى، وينادي بدعاء جده المرتضى: آخ يا سريع الرضا، اغفر لمن لا يملكه إلا الدعاء، اغفر لمن رأس ماله الحسين وسلاحه البكاء على الحسين. يا سابغ النعم على المنادين يا حسين، السلام على أول قتيل من نسل خير سبيل، من سلالة إبراهيم الخليل. Peace be upon the first martyr from the best of progenies, from the descendants of Ibrahim صلوات الله عليه. اختار رزقك أعظم الأرزاء يا ابن الحسين وأكبر الشهداء، يا ابن الغدير ويا ابن كوثر فاطم، ويلا تسبح في غدير دامي كل العيون بأن توزع دمعها. All the eyes shed its tears for Ali al-Akbar. كل العيون بأن توزع دمعها. ترى لماذا العين توزع دمعها? Why does the eye shed its tear? It is said in Kitab al-Maqatil that when the enemy is surrounded علي الأكبر from all sides، تقول في كتاب المقاتل: عندما احتوشوا وضربوا علي الأكبر من كل جانب، طعنة في خاصرته نادى يا حسين، سهم في كتفه نادى يا حسين. A hit on his khusra over here, he called out, "O Hussein." A spear in his shoulder, he called out, "Ya Hussein." ضربة في قدمه نادى يا حسين، دماء على صدره نادى يا حسين. ضربة في قدمه يا حسين، في دماء على صدره نادى يا حسين. في كل كلمة يضرب يطعن ينادي أبا يا حسين. And every time he was struck علي الأكبر, he called out, "Father, O Hussein." والحسين يسمعون. And Imam Hussein hears him. فلتوقفوا عند الجراح بجسمه، طعناته تعصى على الإحصاء. عزريل طأطأ من كسار روحه، قد جاء يمشي على استحياء. Azrael, he comes, the angel of death, he comes shy. من أين أخذ روحه؟ من رأسه المحطم أم من أنفه المهشم? From where do I take Ali al-Akbar's soul? From his head that has been shattered, or from his cheek that has been bruised? عزريل طأطأ من كسار رأسه، قد جاء يمشي على استحياء، فرأى الحسين على التراب ممددا. So he saw Imam al-Hussein on the dirt. صلوات الله عليه. What did Imam al-Hussein alayhi salam call out to Ali al-Akbar? Shaykh al-Tustari, he says that Imam al-Hussein, he did wada' of Ali al-Akbar 3 times. يودعك الله يا زينة الشبان. My farewells to you, O ornament of the youth. يودعك الله يا زينة الشبان، وتميل النظر إياه، واني ربيتك على جناح الحال، ساعة ونشوفك متوسد التربان، وتميل النظر إياه، واني ربيتك على جناح الحال، ساعة ونشوفك متوسد التربان. الآن قد مات الحسين من الأسى، فلتندبي يا دمعة الزهراء. إنا لله وإنا إليه راجعون. سيعلم الذين ظلموا أي منقلب ينقلبوا، والعاقبة للمتقين. أفلح من صلى على محمد وآل محمد.
Jazakallah khair, Brother Ali, for the beautiful poem, inshallah khair. Can we now please invite our beloved Sheikh with a loud salawat ala Muhammad wa ali Muhammad.
أعوذ بالله من الشيطان الرجيم بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم الحمد لله رب العالمين والصلاة والسلام على سيدنا ونبينا وحبيب إلهنا وطبيب نفوسنا أبي القاسم المصطفى محمد وعلى أهل بيته الطيبين الطاهرين المعصومين المنتجبين المطهرين لا سيما بقية الله في الأرضين روحي وأرواح العالمين له الفداء ولعنة الله على أعدائهم أجمعين إلى قيام يوم الدين. My dear brothers and respected sisters, Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullah. It is narrated that once the Abbasid Caliph Mansur, la'natullahi alayhi, this is the same Mansur that poisoned Imam Sadiq alayhi salam, he once called the seventh Imam, Imam Musa al-Kadhim, and he told him to sit for a ceremony where it was the Persian New Year, Nowruz, and the heads of the army were going to come and give their congratulations and present gifts to the Caliph. So the Caliph Mansur told Imam Kadhim, I want you to take up this responsibility and be the one to receive the gifts on behalf of me. Imam alayhi salam tried to refuse, he gave an excuse, but the Caliph insisted. So fine, the Imam was sitting there, and one by one the heads of the military were coming, were giving congratulations and were presenting the Imam with gifts. And there was a servant of the Caliph Mansur who was close by and watching. Until at the end of this ceremony, after the heads of the army had come, one old man came up and he said, "O son," he addressed the Imam Kadhim alayhi salam. He says, "O son of the Messenger of Allah, I am a destitute man, I'm poor, I don't have anything, I don't have any gift or money, wealth that I could give you. But let me give you this. My grandfather recited some poetry for your grandfather, Hussein ibn Ali. And what's the poem?" So he recited the poem. He said, عَجِبْتُ لِمَصْقُولٍ عَلَاكَ فِرِنْدُهُ يَوْمَ الْحَيَاجِ وَقَدْ عَلَاكَ خَبَارٌ. I'll just summarize the gist of what the poem is saying. It's saying that I'm not surprised that the enemy, the Banu Umayyah, did what they did to you, O Hussein. I'm surprised that the swords and the arrows actually went to your body, and your greatness and your magnificence did not cause the arrows and the swords to divert away and not hit you. So after reciting this poem, the Imam says to him that I have accepted your gift. Take a seat. May Allah bless you. Take a seat. And then Imam Kadhim turns to that servant of of Mansur, and he says, "Go ask the Caliph, what's the deal with all of these gifts? What does he want to do with all of these gifts?" So the servant goes to the Caliph, comes back and tells Imam Kadhim that Mansur has said, everything is for you. You can have it, Imam Kadhim. And Imam Kadhim alayhi salam, he tells this old man that take all of this wealth. All of it is a gift from me to you. You see, this is one example that I just wanted to show you guys, to show how the Ahlul Bayt salamullahi alayhim, they really encouraged and supported the poets who were reciting poetry in favor of the Ahlul Bayt. This is just one story. We have a lot of similar stories. Kumayt, Da'bal, these were great, brave Shia who, in a time of political stress where it was dangerous for them to openly support the Ahlul Bayt, they were bravely writing poetry, exposing the enemies of the Ahlul Bayt and supporting the Ahlul Bayt. And the Imams used this tool of passing on a message, of teaching people. You see, at that time, there was no internet, there was no TV, no smartphones. This is 100, 1,000, 200, 300, 400 years ago. At that time, poetry was the way that was the mass media. Somebody would write a poem, and the Arabs loved poetry. Very quickly, everybody would memorize it, and it would pass along. Because of the eloquence of the poetry itself, people would remember it and narrate it and memorize it. And so it was a way of somehow passing on a message. Poets were a very important group in that culture, in that society. And so the Ahlul Bayt alayhimus salam, as well as the enemies of the Ahlul Bayt, tried to take advantage of that and tried to support poets who would write poetry to support their cause. And so this is a lesson for us. Just one other hadith I'll quote. We have a hadith that says, من قال فينا بيت شعر بنى الله تعالى له بيتا في الجنة. This is a beautiful play on the word bayt. Bayt is, I think we would call it a pun in English. Okay, bayt in Arabic is used for a house, and bayt is also used for a couplet of poetry, like 2 lines of poetry. And so in this hadith it says, whoever says about us, the Ahlul Bayt, whoever recites a line of poetry, a couplet of poetry, Allah will build a house for them in Jannah. Whoever recites a bayt about us, God will build a bayt for them in Jannah. The lesson that, since we are now coming to the end of this opportunity that we have to remember Imam Hussein, connect to Imam Hussein, a message I wanted to give to you, dear brothers and sisters, is that the same way that poetry was so important at that time, maybe till now it is, but maybe in our society, in Canada, in English, it's not as important as it was at that time. Now, that doesn't mean we shouldn't work on poetry. We should. But what I'm saying is that there is a greater message we can take out here of somehow spreading. The goal is not just poetry. The goal is to spread the teachings of the Ahlul Bayt in an artistic way, in a literary way. If we can somehow promote the values, the message of the Ahlul Bayt alayhimus salam. Today, parents are looking for resources that they can give their kids, be it movies or books or something to pass their time. If only we had such resources that had been developed by mu'mineen, that are in line, that are teaching, presenting the teachings of the Ahlul Bayt in a format that children would like, be it a short film or a novel or a comic book or something. So these are all things that if we are able to, it would be such a huge service that definitely in the eyes of Allah would be extremely valuable if we are able to. Sallallahu ala Muhammad wa ali Muhammad. I wanted to talk a little bit today about another point. So far we've been talking about different kind of teachings of Imam Hussein alayhi salam, different teachings of Islam that we can work on in our lives to join that symbolic caravan of the Imam. We talked about shukr, giving thanks. We talked about tafakkur, being somebody who thinks about what we're doing in life, where we're going. We talked about tafweed, this idea of doing what we got to do and then entrusting everything to God. We talked about ibadah, the importance of establishing that clear relationship with God, setting aside time in our lives to worship, to talk to Him, to recite all of these beautiful ad'iyah, du'as that we have from the Ahlul Bayt alayhimus salam. And then the last thing that we talked about was this idea of the promises of God. That as believers, we need to have faith in the promises of God. So many verses of Quran talk about different things, and then they say, this is a promise of God. God will never break His promise. So I wanted to wrap that up right now with a couple of points and then move on to another teaching of Islam that we can work on, that we see in the tragedy of Karbala, called basira. We want to be people who have basira in our life. And I'll define what basira means. And inshallah today we want to remember Abu al-Fadl al-Abbas in the Musibah. Abu al-Fadl al-Abbas is somebody who is remembered in ahadith as being somebody who had basira. Again, we'll come to that in a moment. Just to wrap up this discussion on divine promises, I spoke yesterday about the opposite of divine promises, how the enemies, shaitan, they are also trying to promise us things. When we look at all the advertisements we are bombarded with every day, be it like billboards or be it the feed that we're getting in our social media, what is that? These are promises that that company is making that, oh, if you buy my product, you will become happy. You will be successful. You will be popular if you have this material luxury. Okay, these are false promises. We need to realize as believers where true happiness, true success, true perfection lies. And definitely, it does not lie in material things. On the other hand, just a few points about the divine promises, the promises of God. I mentioned 2 nights ago that if a believer does his duty, okay, so this is related to tafweed, related to tafakkur. If we think about what our responsibility is, and then we go ahead and act according to our responsibility in life, having faith in the divine promise of God, that God will help us out, that God will reward us in the hereafter. See, this will bring about 2 different things. One of them is that if we do that, we will ourselves have true peace and tranquility in our lives. This is a very important point. The second point is that it actually will cause the help of God to descend in this world. Okay, so first of all, we have to, again, this is a point I keep reiterating, that the world is not going to be perfect. We are going to have ups and downs in our life. But there is a true sense of tranquility that a believer, peace in his heart that a believer has, that we should be aspiring to have. A believer knows that, okay, he's going to go through difficulty. He's going to see the loss of loved ones. He's going to go through insecurity, sickness. God is going to test him. But simply the fact that he is obeying God, he is doing what God wants him to do, that itself is the cause of peace and tranquility in his life. This is a true peace and tranquility. It is a heart of a believer is connected to that infinite source of all existence, Allah Ta'ala, and that is what we need to rely upon. Our peace and tranquility can't come from our cup of coffee or our, comfort, material comfort. These are things that are temporary. They could be taken away from us. If we are getting some limited happiness from them today, maybe we'll get tired of it tomorrow, and we will constantly seek something else. The true thing that our heart craves, that we will achieve tranquility with, is that connection with Allah Ta'ala. And that feeling that, okay, despite all the difficulties in my life, I know that I did what I was supposed to do. Or I'm seeking repentance, I'm trying to, improve that relationship with God. That is the true source of happiness and peace in this world. Let me just give you one example from the life of Amirul Mu'mineen, salawatullahi alayhi. Please recite a salawat. When in the Battle of Ahzab, that famous story where the Muslims had dug a ditch, Battle of Khandaq, for a time the kuffar were unable to cross this ditch. They were surprised. They hadn't seen this tactic being used in warfare before. And then Amr bin Abd Wud, this very brave, famous fighter from the kuffar, he crosses over the ditch and then he starts calling out, reciting poetry that, who is there from you Muslims who's going to come and fight? وَلَقَدْ بَحَّحْتُ مِنَ النِّدَاءِ بِجَمْعِكُمْ هَلْ مِن مُبَارِزٍ. There's poetry narrated in the books of history that he is reciting that, come, one of you Muslims, aren't you all like, don't you believe in these promises of God? Why is nobody brave enough to come and fight me? The Messenger of Allah sallallahu alaihi wasallam, he turns to the Muslims, he says, Man li hadha al-kalb? Who is there that is ready to go and fight this dog? None of the Muslims are brave enough except for Amirul Mu'mineen. Amirul Mu'mineen stands up and says, Ana lahu ya Rasulullah. Rasulullah talks to him, he tells him, this is Amr. Mahdi says, I know, I am Ali ibn Abi Talib. The Prophet calls him, the Prophet brings him close to himself. He wraps the amama on the head of Amirul Mu'mineen. He gives Amirul Mu'mineen his sword. He does dua for him. And then Amirul Mu'mineen goes reciting poetry. The same way that Amr bin Abd Wud was reciting poetry, Imam alayhi salam starts to respond to him with poetry. See, this is somehow connected to what I started with, that the Arabs used to give a lot of importance to poetry, and Arabs loved eloquent Arabic. Just between parentheses, this is kind of why the book Nahjul Balagha is by far the most popular book of hadith that we have. Other things can be said about the nur and the kind of jami' nature, the comprehensive nature of Nahjul Balagha. But one of the main factors why Nahjul Balagha has been so popular in the Shia community is that it was a book that was valued for its eloquence. The compiler, Sharif al-Radi, he was himself an expert in Arabic language, and he was so impressed in these words of Imam Ali alayhi salam that he compiled it with that goal, that it's a book of beautiful Arabic. Anyways, so Imam Ali alayhi salam, he recites his poetry, he starts talking to Amr. Amr asks him, Man anta? He says, who are you? Imam Ali alayhi salam introduces himself. He says, by Allah, your father was my friend, Abu Talib was my friend, I don't want to fight with you. Why did your cousin, the Prophet ﷺ, send you? Okay? And so Amirul Mu'mineen tells him something here. This is where I wanted to show the faith in divine promises. Amirul Mu'mineen says that the Prophet, my cousin, he knows that there's only one option really. Whether you kill me or I kill you, there's no difference. I am definitely going to go to paradise and you are definitely going to go to hell. See, this is a believer, a follower of Ali alayhi salam. We should be like this. Even in the face of difficulty, when we know what our responsibility is, we are fearless. Because we know that this is what God wants me to do. Okay, it might be difficult. It wasn't easy to go and fight for Amirul Mu'mineen even alayhi salam. But the point is that when he has that faith, that confidence in the promise of Allah, he knows that nothing bad is going to happen to him. Worst case, he's still going to go to paradise. Right? So this is what we want to be after in our lives. The other thing, so the one aspect of having faith in divine promises is that we ourselves attain that tranquility, that peace of heart, peace of mind that we are after in our lives. The other thing is that definitely there is a reality that the system, this is also something I have been mentioning in the previous nights, that the system of cause and effect that rules this world is not just a material system. If we obey Allah, there are so many verses of Quran, in tansurullaha yansurkum. If you stand up for the sake of Allah, you listen to what Allah told you, definitely the help of Allah will come in your life. One example that is in front of our eyes is what is happening in Gaza today, what is happening in the Middle East today. Okay, some decades ago, there were so many Muslims, and unfortunately till now even, we have Muslims that were somehow mesmerized and overwhelmed by the power of the enemies of Islam. They said that no, we can't fight against the enemies of Islam. They were betting on a losing horse. Okay? Whereas there were other people who stood up with taqwa, with faith in God. They did their responsibility, And today we are seeing miracles are happening. 8 months, 9 months, 10 months of war, and not one of the objectives of the enemy has been met. Okay, so this is something that the faith, when people have faith, when people do their responsibility, definitely the help of Allah will descend upon them. Sallallahu ala Muhammad wa ali Muhammad. With that, I now want to move on to the sixth of the kind of pieces of Islamic advice from the school of Imam al-Hussein alayhi salam, and that is one of basirah. That as believers, what I was just saying is that we got to figure out what our responsibility is, and then bravely, with faith in God, act on that responsibility. Now the tricky part is sometimes to figure out our responsibility is very difficult. It requires something special that in Islamic terminology, in the terminology of the Quran and the Hadith, we would call this basira. In one of the verses of Quran, it says, قُلْ هَذِهِ سَبِيلِي أَدْعُو إِلَى اللَّهِ. The Prophet ﷺ is being told by Allah that say this, O Muhammad, say to the people that this path of taqwa, this path of bandagi, of ubudiyya, of servitude to God, this is my path. هَذِهِ سَبِيلِي أَدْعُو إِلَى اللَّهِ. I am calling mankind. The Prophet of Allah is calling everybody to tawheed, to ubudiyya, to taqwa, to true perfection. أَدْعُو إِلَى اللَّهِ عَلَى بَصِيرَةٍ أَنَا وَمَنِ اتَّبَعَنِي. The verse goes on to say that the Prophet is somebody who is calling to the path of Allah with basira. See, basira is from the same root as the word basar. Basar would be the sight, the faculty of sight that we have, the ability to see something. Basira is related to that. It's like this deep insight that a person has, a kind of knowledge, a kind of understanding of reality that they have, that when other people are confused, when people do not see where the haqq lies, people don't know what their responsibility is, the person with basira can recognize that. So inshallah, we want to talk a little bit about basira today, and then tomorrow maybe we'll also add some points of how we can work on developing basira in our life. One thing about basira that we see in the lives of the Ahlul Bayt alayhimus salam is that it's not something that everybody has. Okay, that's why it's so valuable. We have a hadith of Amir al-Mu'mineen, I'll just summarize that the person who wants to hold the flag of Islam, the person who wants to take up that responsibility of playing an important role for the Muslim ummah, they have to have basira and sabr. So basira is something that not everybody has, this understanding in times of confusion, at times of fitna. People get confused that where is the haqq? Like we were talking about Sayyida Zainab, salamullahi alayha, a few days ago, we were saying that at a time when many people in the Muslim world did not have basira. They didn't know that they had to join up with Hussein ibn Ali. Okay, not everybody who was not in the camp of Imam Hussein, other than these 72 or whatever number of companions that the Imam had, it's not like everybody else was a fasiq, an open transgressor, an alcoholic. No. There were people who claimed to be people of religion, people of worship, people of knowledge, but they didn't have the basira that they had to obey the Ahlul Bayt. They had to go to Imam Hussein and submit before him and follow him. Some of them, they came up maybe sincerely, definitely sincerely at times. They started to give advice to their Imam that, oh Hussein, don't go to Kufa, go to Yemen, go run away from Yazid. See, they didn't have that understanding that you don't advise your Imam, you listen to your Imam, you submit to your Imam. There were a lot of people like that in history, and unfortunately, even today there are a lot of people like that who maybe they mean well, but they don't have basira. They don't know where they need to act at the right time, when they have to act, how they have to act. One more example of somebody in history who didn't have basira is a famous individual that is revered by most of the Muslims called Hassan al-Basri. Okay, Hassan al-Basri is remembered by a lot of our dear brothers as being a very pious scholar, one of the tabi'un, mufassir of the Quran, muhaddith, spiritual person. But the Ahlul Bayt alayhim salam do not have good statements about him, because they recognize that he was somebody who didn't have basira. He didn't go and follow the Ahlul Bayt. He tried to open up his own school of thought as opposed to the Ahlul Bayt. Announce himself that I am somebody, I am my own scholar, don't go to the Ahlul Bayt, come to me. In one of the ahadith, Amirul Mu'mineen alayhi salam, at the life of Amirul Mu'mineen, Hassan al-Basri was still a very young child, maybe in his 20s or something, or even a teenager. And he lived for a long time after that. Once after the battle of Jamal, Amirul Mu'mineen alayhi salam comes to Hassan al-Basri, and he sees he's making wudu. And he tells him, Ya Hassan, asbigh al-wudu. Oh Hassan, make your wudu correctly. There's a point here that somebody who doesn't go to the door of the Ahlul Bayt, everything that they do will be wrong. He wasn't making his wudu correctly because he hadn't learned how to do wudu from Ali alayhi salam. Then Hassan somehow, maybe sarcastically or rudely responds. He says, Oh Ali, yesterday you went and fought so many people. You killed so many Muslims who were people who used to make wudu properly. Referring to the battle of Jamal, Talha, Zubair, those Muslims who fought against Amirul Mu'mineen. So then Imam Ali asks him, okay, if that's the case, if that's what you believe, why didn't you fight against us? Why didn't you help our enemies? And then he says, I was going out to help them. I was sure that to not help your enemies is kufr. I have to help your enemies. As I was going out to help, I heard a cry. I heard a voice that called out and said, Oh Hassan, where are you going? Where are you going? Turn back. For both the person who kills, both the killer and the killed are in the fire of hell. And then Imam Ali alayhi salam tells him, yes, that voice that you heard, oh Hassan, that was your brother Shaitan. He was telling you, and what he was telling you was right, that both the people who killed and the killers, people who killed and were killed from our enemies, were in the fire of hell. Anyways, this is an interesting story, but my point is what? My point is that a lot of people were like Hassan al-Basri, and till now they are like Hassan al-Basri, where at times of difficulty, when the going gets tough, a lot of people love Allah, they love Islam, but when it comes to practically who do they have to follow, how do they have to act in their lives, they don't have basira, they don't have that correct, deep insight, that correct understanding of what they gotta do. Sallallahu ala Muhammad wa ali Muhammad. I'll just end with a couple of points here of practical examples in our life in this day and age of what are examples of areas where we need to have basira, where unfortunately a lot of mu'mineen, if not Muslimin, are lacking in their basira. Okay, so I said basira is this kind of deep understanding that allows us to figure out where the truth is, figure out where our responsibility is. One of the areas, unfortunately, that happens a lot nowadays amongst mu'mineen is this focusing on polemical differences between Shia and Sunnah. Okay, this is something that our enemies are very happy. They are willing to spend money to promote, to fan the flames of this fire. And unfortunately, to a certain extent, they are succeeding. Both Shia and Sunnis alike are falling prey to this plot of our enemies and just focusing on bad-mouthing one another, cursing one another. This is at a time where we have enemies that are trying to do what they are doing today in Gaza. They want to occupy our lands and take our resources and subjugate us. And we, unfortunately, we don't realize that at the forefront of the fight right now are Sunnis. We have to help them. This is a fight that all Muslims are engaged in. And so we need to work with them. We need to love them, support them. This is what the Ahlul Bayt want us to do. This is what Amirul Mu'mineen alayhi salam did not rise up for all those years, and he swallowed his anger for the unity of the Muslim Ummah. And so this is a very important point. We have in the Quran that those true followers of the Prophet, Muhammadun Rasulullah Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam. This is the last verse of Surah Al-Fatih, the 48th chapter of the Quran. وَالَّذِينَ مَعَهُ أَشِدَّاءُ عَلَى الْكُفَّارِ رُحَمَاءُ بَيْنَهُم. Those people who are truly with the Prophet, what is the criteria, the identifying factor of these true Muslims? They are not people who are whining and dining with the enemies of Islam. Unfortunately, we see that sometimes mu'mineen are so ready to badmouth Muslims, badmouth our Sunni brothers, but work with the enemies of Islam. No, أشداء على الكفار. They are harsh, they are severe when it comes to the kuffar, but amongst the Muslims, رحماء بينهم. Okay, we cannot say that our Sunni brothers are not bainahum. Definitely they are from the Muslim ummah. Ruhama bainahum means amongst all the Muslims we have to have mercy with one another, love one another, support one another, help one another. This is one point, one area where unfortunately sometimes believers falter in their basira. Another example of basira is in this day and age that we live in. There are so many attempts in this society to weaken our families, to occupy our time with useless things, to pray. I was talking about advertisements the other day, yesterday or the day before, that to prey upon our carnal desires, to make us busy with things that at the very least it is useless. Okay, God forbid, it's even worse than that. It's sin that is killing our soul by engaging in that sin. Okay, there are all these attempts at Hollywood and internet and the educational curriculum and all these different things are there trying to attack us, attack our spirituality, our values, our family structure. In the face of this, what do? Somebody with basira should recognize this problem and try to be taking steps to help the Muslim community, that inshallah a generation from now, 2 generations from now, our children, our grandchildren are still faithful mu'mineen, lovers of the Ahlul Bayt, living in this country. Okay, the only solution is not that we pack up and leave and go back home. Not everybody can do that. Muslim communities are now established in Canada. We're here to stay. And so we need to have a plan to somehow continue to remain, to train our children, to pass on the faith, purity, piety, knowledge to the future generations. And in that regard, one of the things that's very, very important and must be done correctly is to have Islamic schools. So mashallah, it is a very very happy thing to hear that there is an attempt, which inshallah after the majlis today you will find out more about, to establish a Shia school over here. This is the least that we can do for our children. Maybe this is even more important than the Husayniyah itself. Normally we put so much money, so much time, so much efforts into the Husayniyah, which is great, which is necessary, but for the future of our children, who's to say maybe a school is even more important than the Husayniyah. Let's leave it at that. One last point I wanted to say about Abu al-Fadl al-Abbas before we move to the musibah is that, like I said, one of the outstanding qualities of Hazrat Abbas is that he was somebody of basira. We have this in ahadith about him. Rahimallahu ammi al-Abbas, in one of the ahadith we have. This is not the one, but anyways, there's other ahadith. Yeah, okay, there's one hadith from Imam Sadiq alayhi salam where he says, كان عمنا العباس نافذ البصيرة صلب الإيمان. Our uncle Abbas, Imam Sadiq, the 6th Imam, is talking about Abu al-Fadl al-Abbas, so like his grandfather's uncle, but in Arabic, in the fiqh, that's very normal. Your parents' uncles, you can call them to be your uncle as well. He says, our uncle Abbas was somebody nafidhul basira. He had this basira that at times of fitna, at times of confusion, he had that deep insight that was nafidh. It would pierce through those veils, those difficulties, and recognize what the correct responsibility was. Where do we see the basira of Abu al-Fadl al-Abbas? 2 places that we see his basira. One is that on the day of Ashura, a message came from Shimr, la'anatullahi alayh. Shimr was related to the mother of Abu al-Fadl al-Abbas, Umm al-Baneen. So a cry came out, Aina bani ukhti. Shimr is calling out to the camp of Imam Hussein that where are the sons of my sister? They didn't say anything. Then Imam Hussein turns to his brothers, Abul Fadl Abbas and the other three. There were three other brothers, Abdullah, Ja'far and Uthman. These four brothers were all the sons of Amirul Mu'mineen from Ummul Baneen, this great lady, this lover of the Ahlul Bayt. So they don't respond, and then Imam Hussein turns to them and says, Ajibuhu, respond to him. Even if he is a fasiq, he's from your extended family, respond to him. So they ask him, what do you want? And he tells them, come, you are safe. Don't kill yourselves with your brother Hussein, basically. What do? Do they falter? Do they for a moment? No, they are people of basira. They have been trained by their mother who has nothing but love and loyalty for the Ahlul Bayt. They curse Shimr and they say, قَبُحْتَ وَقَبُحَ مَا جِئْتَ بِهِ. May, woe be upon you, how ugly you are and how ugly this aman nameh, this guarantee of safety is. Should we leave our master and our brother and we go towards safety? He is killed and we are not killed? And so this is their basira, that they don't even entertain such a thought for a moment. Another aspect of the basira of Abul Fadl al-Abbas is that he sent his three brothers first to go and be killed in front of him, one by one. He was the only one from these four brothers who had children. He never thought for a moment that, no, let one of my brothers remain alive to take care of my kids, to take care of my elderly mother in Medina. No, he had that basira, he knew what he had to do, and one by one he sends his brothers first to die for him. Assalamu alayka ya Aba Abdullah وعلى الأرواح التي حلت بفنائك عليك مني سلام الله أبدا ما بقيت وبقي الليل والنهار ولا جعله الله آخر العهد مني لزيارتكم السلام على الحسين وعلى علي بن الحسين وعلى أولاد الحسين وعلى أصحاب. If they call me disgraceful, I'll say Hussein. If they tell me you are sinful, I'll say Hussein. In all my worries, my fear and my pain, my heart becomes hopeful when I say Hussein. Today we want to remember Abul Fadl Abbas. Who was Abbas? We cannot understand the level of Abbas. We should not be surprised when we see that there is such a beautiful haram for Abul Fadl Abbas, Bayn al-Haramain. This is the place between these two harams. We should not be surprised when we see that it is very rare, maybe for one of the children of the Ahlul Bayt, that we have a special ziyarah from the Imams that has told us how to do ziyarah of them. But we have one for Abul Fadl al-Abbas. One of the Iraqi scholars who was a very, very famous poet, a very good poet, he lived about 200 years ago. His name was Muhammad Rida al-Uzuri. Once he started to write a poem. He thought, let me write a poem about Abul Fadl al-Abbas. And he started to write, يَوْمٌ أَبُو الْفَضْلِ اسْتَجَارَ بِهِ الْهُدَى. That on that day of Ashura, Imam Hussein took refuge in Abul Fadl al-Abbas. He wrote that poem and then he stopped. And he thought to himself, no, how can I say that? That is not respectful to Imam Hussein. Imam Hussein alayhi salam would not be happy with me saying something like that. And he went to sleep. He went to sleep, and in his dream, Imam Hussein alayhi salam came to him and told him, Uzuri, why did you stop writing that poem? لَنِعْمَ مَا قُلْتَ لَقَدْ أَحْسَنْتَ. Imam Hussein praised what he had said. He said, it's true, on the day of Ashura, even I went and sought refuge in Abbas. Imam Hussein told him, continue to write the poem and add this line to the first bayt. وَالشَّمْسُ مِنْ كِدَرِ الْعِجَاجِ لِثَامِهَا. That on that day of Ashura, the sun, that is Imam Hussein, kind of went behind the clouds. Because of the dust of that, the sun was veiled. Meaning that the son, Imam Hussein, was under also the protection of Abu al-Fadl al-Abbas. So Uzuri wakes up and he writes a long poem. In one of his lines of poetry, he says, Al-Yawm, he's telling Abu al-Fadl al-Abbas that Abbas, with your death, Al-Yawm namat a'yunun bika lam tanum. Oh Abbas, today there are eyes that are happy. They can sleep peacefully now that you are dead. These are the enemies of the Ahlul Bayt. وَتَسَهَّدَتْ أُخْرَى فَعَزَّ مَنَامُهَا. But oh Abbas, there are other eyes. There are the eyes of the daughters of Hussein that no more can they sleep peacefully now that you are gone. Let us go to the day of Ashura. Allama Majlisi narrates in Biharul Anwar. The time came that Abbas was the last of all the men, other than Ali al-Asghar, as we call him, other than Abdullah ibn al-Hasan, these young children. The last of the men who is left in the camp of Hussein is Abbas. When Abbas saw how Imam al-Hussein was all alone, he comes to his brother. He says, oh my brother, hal min rukhsa. Is there permission for me now to go into the battlefield? Hussein alayhi salam knows what is going to happen. He cries, baka buka'an shadida. He cries, he says, oh my brother, you are my sahibul liwa. You are the one who has the flag of my army. How can I let you go? Abbas says, my heart has now become constricted. I am tired of life. I want to go and seek revenge from these munafiqun. Hussein tells him, oh Abbas, if that's the case, then at least try and go and get some water for these children. Abbas alayhi salam, he goes to the enemy, he talks to them, he tries to convince them, he tries to advise them, but unto no avail. He comes back to his brother, he tells him what happened. At that time, Abbas hears the cries of the children. Al-Atash, Al-Atash. Today, I don't know how many parents are hearing the cries of their children in Gaza. Al-Atash, Al-Atash. Abbas climbs onto his horse, he takes a spear, he takes a water bag, he goes towards Furat. There are 4,000 of the enemy soldiers who have been stationed at the Furat to stop him from coming. They are firing arrows at him, but he is fearless. He is the son of Ali. He kills 80 of them. Somehow, amidst that army, amidst that chaos, he is able to make himself reach the water of Furat. This is the loyalty of Abbas. Anybody would have justified it for themselves, that they could have taken some water in that state and drunk it. But when he looks at the water, ذَكَرَ عَطَشَ الْحُسَيْنِ وَأَهْلَ بَيْتِهِ. He remembers the thirst of Hussein. He remembers the thirst of the family of Hussein. He throws the water back down. He fills the water bag and he carries it on his right shoulder and tries to go back towards the camp of Imam al-Hussein. The enemy soldiers stop him, they surround him, he is trying to make his way, but the time comes that his right hand is severed. Wallahi in qata'tumu yamini, inni uhami abadan an dini. Imagine how painful it would be to have your hand cut off, but Abbas doesn't falter. He says, by Allah, even if they cut off my right hand, I will never stop to help the religion of Allah. He goes forward. Sometime later, his left hand is now cut. يا نفس لا تخشى من الكفار وأبشري برحمة الجبار. He's telling himself, oh nafs, don't be scared. Somehow, without any hands, he is still going forward. He has taken the water bag in his mouth. But the time comes that an arrow pierces that water bag, and the water is spilt onto the plains of Karbala. Sometime later, Imam al-Hussein, maybe he was looking, and amidst that crowd, amidst that army of Yazid, he hears a cry. يا أبا عبد الله عليك مني السلام. ألا لعنة الله على القوم الظالمين وسيعلم الذين ظلموا أي منقلب ينقلبون. صلى على محمد وآل محمد.
Brothers and sisters, can we please welcome Brother Abu Mahdi with a loud salawat ala Muhammad wa ali Muhammad.
أعوذ بالله من الشيطان الرجيم بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم والصلاة والسلام على سيدنا ونبينا وحبيب قلوبنا وشفيع ذنوبنا أبي القاسم محمد بن عبد الله وعلى آل بيته الطيبين الطاهرين. Assalamu alaikum, dear brothers and sisters. My name is Muhammad Grace. I'm one of the staff that works at Al-Mahdi Islamic School, and I'm here today to do a quick recap on the accomplishments or the things that were done at the Al-Mahdi School last year. And also I'm here to do an announcement, inshallah, for the benefit of the community. So first of all, thank you everyone for your support for the Al-Mahdi Islamic School. And just a quick reminder that any donation that you're giving to the center, you're also supporting and helping the madrasa. So we appreciate all your efforts in advance. Our past year highlights in the school. So this past year, we had 71 students in various age groups as part of the madrasa. We initiated several teacher training workshop sessions, and we had 7 school meetings. We also started a new teacher of the quarter celebration, and we celebrated those who, some of the important Islamic events. So overall, we had 34 teaching days and 136 hours of instructions. We employ and have volunteers totaling about 15 people. We have a new program and fee structure. So this September, inshallah, this next coming September, we are launching a new program where we will be offering language studies in addition to our existing Tarbiyah, Quran, and Deen class. Parents that choose to bring these students to learn either Arabic or Urdu. So for the previous years, in the morning, we only had the Arabic language. As of this year, inshallah, we're going to have the Urdu language in the morning. And inshallah, as our community grows and our capabilities also extend, we'll add more languages, inshallah, to serve everyone in the community. So parents that choose to bring their students to learn either Arabic or Urdu can be dropped off at 9:30, 11:30. Now the timing can change based on the deal or contract that we're going to do with the school. So it could be 9:45, it could be back to 10, what was before, but we're aiming to start at 9:30, inshallah, next year. For those parents that do not wish to have their children participate in the language studies, drop-off will be at 11:30 onwards. The children who will do language studies in Arabic or Urdu will get a little break before returning with other classmates to do Tarbiyah, Quran, and Deen. There will be a difference in fees depending on whether the student picks the language, Quran, Deen, and Tarbiyah, or just Quran, Deen, and Tarbiyah classes. These fees will be discussed at a later date. So we're also working behind the scene to see what's the best way to make this affordable for the whole community. Inshallah, in the email that we're going to send to the community, we will share these fees. Some of the things that we celebrated in the school is the monthly thematic days. This includes cultural exchange program. We plan to do some interfaith dialogue and service learning projects. We have a plan to do virtual tours and online competitions, and we have created expressions. Students did play or art exhibits. We also had enhanced celebrations and student-led performances. So whoever remember last year, we had the Imam Mahdi Sharif Wilada at the center. Kids came and they did live plays and anasheeds. Our teachers are also well trained and have continuous learning opportunities. We have done teacher workshops, and the teachers were engaged in online courses and webinars. We have a mentorship program, collaborative planning exercise, a resource library, and we have several appreciation programs for our wonderful teachers. We do have some challenges in the operations. So additionally, we're currently facing several operational challenges. The major one was the need for volunteers. Last year, we just sent an email that we need volunteers, and I took a promise on the brothers and the sisters in the school. We're not gonna come after any parents and tell them to volunteer. This is a responsibility that they should help by themselves. We are hoping and wishing that everyone next year will proactively come and say, this is the day that I would wish to come and volunteer and help and support. So we're not gonna come after anyone. We just hope that you take the responsibility that you should take toward your kids and the community, and just give us a day during the year to help us and support us. We're also considering to hire a security person for safety this year. We're always looking for volunteers and would love your support. So just contact us if you have any information or if you don't know how to do this. And finally, our madrasa is located at Sir Wilfrid Laurier Secondary School. We did have some pictures of students in the mosque, but those who are from prior sessions. We look forward to welcoming your child in September, inshallah. And if you have any questions or concerns, just send us an email to the secretariat at al-mahdiislamicschool.com or the principal at al-mahdiislamicschool.com. That's for the Sunday school. أعوذ بالله من الشيطان الرجيم بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم والعصر إن الإنسان لفي خسر إلا الذين آمنوا وعملوا الصالحات وتواصوا بالحق وتواصوا بالصبر. As we gather to commemorate Abi Abdullah al-Hussein during these solemn months of mourning, we draw inspiration and strength from the heroes of Karbala, who sacrificed everything for their Imam alayhi salam to uphold the message of a grandfather Rasulullah sallallahu alayhi wa alihi wa sallam. صلوا على محمد وآل محمد. It's imperative that we transform our words into actions and make tangible efforts. Inshallah, we can build a community dedicated to sacrificing for the Imam of our time, Ajjalallahu ta'ala farajahu sharif. Our fathers and teachers have done their best to guide us along the path of Abu Abdullah al-Hussein. And now here in Canada, we must continue this effort, even if it requires new and unique approaches due to our distance from our homeland. A full-time Islamic school is essential to achieving this goal. It's vital for nurturing and preserving the faith, identity, and values of the Imam Mahdi Ajjalallahu ta'ala farajahu sharif. Living in the West, in a time where there is a physical separation from our Imam Ajjalallahu ta'ala farajahu sharif, such an institution is crucial and very important in fostering a relationship with him and setting the foundation for his noble return, inshallah. This full-time Islamic school will seamlessly integrate academic excellence with spiritual growth while important building as a stronger community. As envisioned by a lot of people in the center, like since the center opened, the older generation, the new generation, and even Sayyid Rida rahmatullah alayhi, that was one of the things he mentioned in his will. It presents an opportunity to connect our children with the love of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala and Ahlul Bayt alayhim salam, enabling them to become confident, knowledgeable, and morally upright individuals. They will be equipped to navigate the challenges of modern society, contribute positively to the wider community, and demonstrate the beauty of Islam to the world. By grounding the upcoming generations in the rich traditions and teachings of Ahlul Bayt alayhim salam, and by instilling the love of wilayah within them. Inshallah, we will be answering the call of Hal min Nasir Yansuruna. And this is our opportunity to come together fi sabilillah to become the Ansar of our Imam. So with all that being said, a group of brothers and sisters formed together and they launched a committee that's taking care of this project. The committee has made extreme effort. So this is not a WhatsApp group. This is not people talking about it. This is people that, are meeting, and they're doing effort, and they did extreme efforts by contacting surrounding schools, board members, community members, and professional organizations to ensure that we have all the background knowledge necessary to make this a successful project. We are diligently working to answer all questions regarding this project. However, as we are in the process of getting this project up and running, we may not have immediate answers to all inquiries. So please forward any question that you have to the email that's going to be provided at the end of the slides or the show that we're showing on the screen. So imagine a school where your child is taught by the Ontario Ministry of Education curriculum, by an Ontario certified teacher, wholesome way with Islamic teachings from the Quran and Ahl al-Bayt alayhim salam, commemorating Shia holidays, Muharram, Ramadan, and Eid al-Ghadir, stories and craft about our Imams and Prophets, teachings that promotes universal values such as respect, responsibility, and fairness, integrity, and obedience to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, and the Ahl al-Bayt, learning math, science, English, while tying the curriculum to our face. This vision, or the mission and the vision and the values that this school have. So first, the founding of a Shia Ithna Ashari Islamic school in London, Ontario, for our existing and new coming generations. Academic Islamic excellence by integrating the Ontario Ministry of Education curriculum with Islamic teachings, knowledge of the Quran, Ahl al-Bayt, history, moral values, teaching a curriculum that integrates occasions from the Islamic calendar, highlighting their significance alongside teachings that promote universal values such as respect, responsibility, fairness, integrity, and obedience to Allah and Ahl al-Bayt alayhim salam. The committee members, so we're going to announce some names, but there's a lot of brothers and sisters behind the scene. They did not want to share their names, and they wanted just to work in the shadow. Jazahumullah khair. So first we have Sister Suman Rizvi. Sister Suman Rizvi has a Bachelor of Education. She's an Ontario certified teacher and a former school principal of Al-Mahdi Islamic School from 2021 to 2023. We have Sister Mai, or Dr. Mai Al-Fartusi. She has a PhD, MSc in Education, Master in Counseling Psychology, postdoctoral certificates focusing on Shia youth and communities in Canada, registered psychotherapist and clinical supervisor. We have Brother Yasser Rahrovani. He's an associate professor at Ivy Business School, Western University, and he's also a volunteer at Al-Mahdi Boys Soccer and Scouts. We have Sayyida Faiza Ghazir Mir Saeed. She has a BSc in Medical Plant Engineering. She has an MA in Comparative Religious Studies. She's also an Ontario certified teacher, a G1 teacher at the London Islamic School, and Al-Mahdi Scout leader also. Myself, Muhammad Kharis, I'm a leader at Al-Mahdi Scout, and I work at the Al-Mahdi Islamic School, and I am a conflict resolution manager at a Canadian institution. We have Brother Arif Dato. Brother Arif is an accountant. He works in systems and fundraising at Al-Mahdi Islamic Center community. He's an audit professional and principal risk advisory services. The brothers formed 4 subcommittees. So the first subcommittee is working on the curriculum, training and curriculum development, where they're responsible for teacher acquisitions, teacher training, and finally developing and updating the curriculum to include both religious and spiritual aspects as well as student well-being. The second subcommittee is the communication and marketing team, and they're responsible for interactions with parents, volunteers, and the community at large. This team addresses any additional inquiries that may arise. The fourth subcommittee that we have is the logistic team, and they're currently responsible for identifying possible locations and transportation needs, security, and facility management. The fourth one is the finance and legal team, and these brothers are responsible for fundraising, incorporation, charity, account management, tuition, and legal documentation. the first two steps that the committee is going to take toward the community. So number one, we're going to do an informed parenting workshop with Sister Maya Al-Fartusi. The attendance of this workshop is very important for the community, number one, and second for us, just to know who's interested, who's coming, who's involved. The reason I say for the community, number one, is because Dr. Maya Al-Fartusi, with all the experience that she has, will be running a workshop that deal with parenting styles and strategies for maintaining a sense of belonging and attachment security. So this is focused on gaining the knowledge, skills, and strategies that help nurture a sense of certain belonging in the community and enhance parental relationships with children. We're going to be sharing more information about this workshop, inshallah, either after the 10th of Muharram before the Arba'een, or it could be after the Arba'een. The other meeting that we're going to do is an information session. We're going to invite all the community to discuss with them, the volunteers and the subcommittees. We're going to discuss with them the estimate financial startup cost and tuition. And the next step for the school, suggested grade levels, initially proposing kindergarten with the intention of including all elementary education to grade 8. So if we start, inshallah, it's going to be with SK, JK, and then eventually starting adding classes, inshallah, if Allah permit us, until grade 8. Opportunity to ask questions and provide suggestions during that meeting. Look for details in an upcoming email that's going to be sent from the Al-Mahdi Center. If you have any questions, you can send us an email at london.school786@gmail.com. And thank you so much for your time. I know that I gave a lot of information, but all this will be shared, inshallah, with an email form from the center. And if anyone have any questions or would like to reach us, this is the email address, london.school786@gmail.com. And jazakumullah khair al-jaza, all of you, for your time. Thank you so much.
Bismillah ar-Rahman ar-Rahim. Inshallah, I'll be reciting some Persian poetries, inshallah, followed by Ziyarat Ashura. اللهم صل على محمد وآل محمد وعجل فرجهم. ای پناه دردمندان یا حسین، مظهر الطاف یزدان یا حسین، یا حسین، یا حسین. بار دیگر این گدای آشنا نزد تو گردید مهمان یا حسین. جان زهرا مادر مظلومت، روی از ما برمگردان یا حسین، روی از ما برمگردان یا حسین. یک نگاه لطف تو کافی بود تا دهد صد مرده را جان یا حسین. پیکر تو از چه رو افتاده است، بر تن داغ بیابان یا حسین. أبا الفضل طلای دار عالمینی پناه خیمه حسینی پناه خیمه حسینی ای به کربلا تو ذوالفقارم دو چشم مست تو قرارم وای خدا گواه من میمیرم اگه بری تو از کنارم ساقی کربلا ابوالفضل 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 به لبهای تشنه‌ات سلام الله به نفسی انت یا ابا عبدالله دل ما مانده به پیمانت فدای آن لب عطشانت به نفسی انت یا ابا عبدالله به نفسی انت یا ابا عبدالله به نفسی انت به نفسی انت یا ابا عبدالله. If possible, please raise up. نفسی انت یا ابا عبدالله به لبهای تشنه‌ات سلام الله به لبهای تشنه‌ات سلام الله به نفسی انت یا ابا عبدالله به نفسی انت یا دل ما مانده به پیمانت فدای آن لب عطشانت به نفسی انت یا ابا عبدالله به نفسی انت یا به نفسی انت یا ابا عبدالله تو زیبایی چون جمال پیغمبر شگفتی مانند پدرت حیدر شگفتی مانند پدرت حیدر غریبی چون مادرت زهرا کریمی چون مجتبی با ما به نفسی انت یا ابا عبدالله به نفسی انت یا ابا عبدالله به نفسی انت به لبهای تشنه‌ات سلام الله به نفسی انت یا ابا عبدالله به نفسی انت دل ما مانده به پیمانت فدای آن لب عطشانت به نفسی انت یا ابا عبدالله به نفسی انت یا ابا عبدالله به نفسی انت ماشاءالله everyone به نفسی انت یا الله تو را داریم ای تو بهترین مولا، برای ما کل یوم عاشورا. جوابی حلم معینت را فدای قربت تو مولا، به نفسی انت یا ابا عبدالله، به نفسی انت یا ابا عبدالله، به نفسی انت لا، به نفسی انت عبدالله. به لبهای تشنه‌ات سلام الله، به نفسی انت یا ابا عبدالله. دل ما مانده به پیمانت فدای آن لب عطشانت، به نفسی انت یا ابا عبدالله، به نفسی انت یا ابا عبدالله، به نفسی انت یا عبدالله، به نفسی انت الله، به نفسی انت وعبد الله. أبا الفاز 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 أبا الفاز. أين الطالب بدم المقتول بكربلاء، أين الطالب المقتول بكربلاء، أين الطالب بدم المقتول بكربلاء، أين بكربلاء. كل يوم عاشورا، كل أرض كربلاء، كل يوم عاشورا، كل أرض كربلاء. وارث خون حسین مهدی زهرا بیا، وارث خون حسین مهدی زهرا بیا. یار مظلومان کی میرسی از راه، یار مظلومان کی میرسی از راه. العجل العجل یا حجت الله، العجل العجل یا حجت الله، العجل العجل یا حجت الله، العجل یا حجت الله، العجل العجل یا حجت الله، العجل. الله صلی الله علیک یا مظلوم یا ابا عبدالله. السلام عليك يا أبا عبد الله، السلام عليك يا ابن رسول الله، السلام عليك يا خيرة الله وابن خيرته، السلام عليك يا ابن أمير المؤمنين وابن سيد الوصيل، السلام عليك يا ابن فاطمة سيدة نساء العالمين، السلام عليك يا ثار الله وابن ثاره والوتر الموتور، السلام عليك وعلى الأرواح التي خلت بفنائك. عليكم مني جميعا سلام الله أبدا ما بقيت وبقي الليل والنهار. يا أبا عبد الله لقد عظمت الرزية وجلت وعظمت المصيبة بك علينا وعلى جميع أهل الإسلام، وجلت وعظمت مصيبتك في السماوات على جميع أهل السماوات. فلعن الله أمة أسست أساس الظلم والجور عليكم أهل البيت، ولعن الله أمة دفعتكم عن مقامكم وأزالتكم عن مراتبكم التي رتبكم الله فيها، ولعن الله أمة قتلتكم، ولعن الله الممهدين لهم بالتمكين من قتالكم. برئت إلى الله وإليكم منهم ومن أشياعهم وأتباعهم وأوليائهم. يا أبا عبد الله إني سلم لمن سالمكم وحرب لمن حاربكم إلى يوم القيامة. ولعن الله آل زياد وآل مروان، ولعن الله بني أمية قاطبة، ولعن الله ابن مرجان، ولعن الله عمر بن سعد، ولعن الله شمرا، ولعن الله أمة أسرجت والجمت وتنقبت لقتالك. بأبي أنت وأمي لقد عظم مصابي بك، فأسأل الله الذي أكرم مقامك وأكرمني بك أن يرزقني طلب ثارك مع إمام منصور من أهل بيت محمد صلى الله عليه وآله. اللهم اجعلني عندك وجيها بالحسين عليه السلام في الدنيا والآخرة. يا أبا عبد الله إني أتقرب إلى الله وإلى رسوله وإلى أمير المؤمنين وإلى فاطمة وإلى الحسن وإليك بموالاتك وبالبراءة ممن أسس أساس ذلك وبنى عليه بنيانه وجرى في ظلمه وجوره عليكم وعلى أشياعكم. برئت إلى الله وإليكم منهم وأتقرب إلى الله ثم إليكم بموالاتكم وموالاة وليكم وبالبراءة من أعدائكم والناصبين لكم الحرب وبالبراءة من أشياعهم وأتباعهم. إني سلم لمن سالمكم. ما شاء الله everyone. وولي لمن والاكم وعدو. فأسأل الله الذي أكرمني بمعرفتكم ومعرفة أوليائكم ورزقنا البراءة من أعدائكم أن يجعلني معكم في الدنيا والآخرة وأن يثبت لي عندكم قدم صدق في الدنيا والآخرة. وأسأله أن يبلغنا المقام المحمود لكم عند الله وأن يرزقني طلب ثاري مع إمام هدى ظاهر ناطق بالحق منكم، وأسأل الله بحقكم وبالشأن الذي لكم عنده أن يعطيني بمصابي بكم أفضل ما يعطي مصابا بمصيبته، مصيبة ما أعظمها وأعظم رزيتها في الإسلام وفي جميع السماوات والأرض. اللهم اجعل لي في مقامي هذا ممن تناله منك صلوات ورحمة ومغفرة. اللهم اجعل محياي محيا محمد محمد ومماتي ممات محمد. اللهم إن هذا يوم تبركت به بنو أمية وابن آكلة الأكباد اللعين ابن اللعين على لسانك ولسان نبيك صلى الله عليه وآله في كل موطن وموقف وقف فيه نبيك صلى الله عليه وآله. اللهم لعن أبا سفيان ومعاوية ويزيد بن معاوية عليهم منك اللعنة أبد العابدين. وهذا يوم فرحت به آل زياد وآل مروان بقتلهم الحسين صلوات الله عليه. اللهم فضاعف عليهم اللعنة منك والعذاب الأليم. اللهم إني أتقرب إليك في هذا اليوم وفي موقفي هذا وأيام حياتي بالبراءة منهم واللعنة عليهم وبالموالاة لنبيك وآل نبيك عليه وعليهم السلام. اللهم لعن أول ظالم ظلم حق محمد وآل محمد وآخر تابع له على ذلك. اللهم لعن العصابة التي جاهدت الحسين وشايعت وبايعت وتابعت على قتله. اللهم لعنهم جميعا. السلام عليك يا أبا عبد الله وعلى الأرواح التي ما شاء الله سلام الله أبدا ما بقيت وبقي الليل والنهار ولا جعله الله آخر العهد مني لزيارتكم. السلام على الحسين وعلى علي بن الحسين وعلى أولاد الحسين وعلى حسين. اللهم خص أنت ولا ظالم باللعن مني وابدأ به أولا ثم الثاني والثالث والرابع. اللهم لعن يزيد خامسا ولعن عبيد الله بن زياد وابن مرجانه وعمر بن سعد وشمرا وآل أبي سفيان وآل زياد وآل مروان إلى يوم القيامة. سجود. اللهم لك الحمد حمد الشاكرين لك على مصابهم. الحمد لله على عظيم رزيتي. اللهم ارزقني شفاعة الحسين يوم الورود وثبت لي قدم صدق عندك مع الحسين وأصحاب الحسين الذين بذلوا مهجهم دون الحسين عليه السلام. صلوات.